Today we are shooting out two converters, two of the highest end converters that I can possibly find. I know there's higher, I know you can spend more money and I could plate them in unicorn dust and it might sound better, who knows. But basically this is where I was at. I've just moved on my Neve Genesis console and I love the sound of that, but I've then gone to like the Apollo Twin, like this thing, which sounds amazing, sounds great, lovely, absolutely wonderful and stuff. But until you leave this realm and then look into interfaces and conversion, just to tear up or whatever, you start to hear what masking this was actually doing. Anyway, what I find is that you track through this, listen to it, amazing, sounds good. There's your A to D and then D to A. Oh, sounds wonderful. Use that same tracking, listen back through one of these two units, and all of a sudden you're hearing the masking or the issues or whatever might have been there previously. It just sounds a bit cloudier or whatever, a bit darker. Presuming that you know you're in the studio world and mixing and recording engineering or whatever it is. And I don't pretend to know everything. I definitely don't know anything about anything. But I do listen to a lot of music and I try and get a sort of balanced opinion. No one's paying me to do anything. And I do this in the hope that I'd be looking for this kind of video. So hopefully you guys are too. But anyway, we're shooting out the Lynx Aurora N against the AMS Starnet 24. Now the Starnet has got a fan in it, which you might be able to hear. And it's ludicrously loud. I've said it, whatever. They're not paying me. They're not paying me to do this. I love Neve as well. I used to use a Neve Genesis console, which is why I love the sound of that world. And I wanted to check it out, and they've been really kind of letting me try this out. I'll tell you about how good it is in a minute. And Essex Pro have kindly let me borrow this this Lynx Aurora N. So, and I like them both immediately. Right, I'm trying to keep this video short. Come on, I can do this. I talk too much, but I can do this. Right, anyway. Interface, two headphones on the front. From the physical point of view, obviously the Neve doesn't have this. It's a conversion, it's over Dante, so you've got that thing. It's not as scary as you might immediately think it is. And you look at Dante videos and it's like tech nerds and stuff, and I'm thinking, oh, I can't be doing with this. And anyway, I just downloaded a virtual sound card from Audinet, and it's like a 30-day free trial, and I was up and running within like 15 minutes. I'm not even joking. It's really easy. You just open Pro Tools or Logic or whatever, set your audios in and outs to be your interface to be the virtual sound card, and then you just send it in a matrix called Dante Control. So there you go, done. I won't talk about that anyway. It's another thing. So it's got a little thing which changes to like a sleep mode. So I'll put it back on. It might be flashing because of the frame rate. Who knows? I don't care. Anyway, point being, Lynx Aurora N. So the A to D on this, I absolutely love. I love it. Going in, it's fast, it's transient, it sounds really, whatever that means. It sounds clear, and basically between, so if I'm versus an Apollo, Gen 1, Gen 2, X, any of those, it sounds clear, and I'm hearing a bigger difference between mic pre's. So I'm making a choice on the way in that I think sounds, I don't know, making better choices on the way in is my point. So, and it also feels like it just demasks and declouds some of the things. I can be way more descriptive about this, but I'm just going to keep the time down, you know. And then conversely, the A to D on this sounds, I don't know if it's as good in better terms. It's definitely softer, whatever that means. But if you stay with me, plus 20 dBu, whatever that means. It's got two options: 20 dBu on the Lynx Aurora N, or minus 6 dBV. Don't know what either of those things mean. Don't care. And also, I mean, it's just where you're clipping the converters. I don't know, or how it interfaces with other things. Maybe one of those things. I don't know, go read a chart. But anyway, AMS Neve Starnet have got an option of 18 dBu plus, and plus 24 dBu, and plus 26 dBu. And the only reason I'm saying them is just they're basically three settings of which you can attack the headroom in different ways. And you might think, oh, more headroom might be better. And I don't really know enough about it to comment other than all I've been listening to. So my setup is Kii BXT through a Trinnov ST2 Pro. So I've got as good as I can possibly get it, and it's exact latency, none of the minimum latency thing, because I don't need to be doing it while tracking. It's just for like it's almost like mastering level. I'm in a box, but it's as good as I can get it, and I think it sounds really good. So what we've got is the softness of the A to D potentially on the way in at plus 18. Now at plus 24 dBu, which is obviously 4 dB in one way, higher or lower than the plus 20 dBu of the Lynx Aurora, it sounds a bit closer to me, a little bit unmasked. It's not dark. Don't get me. It's not like that. It's just that this is so kind of I don't know what it is, bright detail, I don't know what it is. It just sounds like it's not doing it. I don't know if it's doing anything, but it sounds like it sounds like something's happening in which it makes this feel softer. But this is still a million times more detailed than the Apollos, in my opinion. Like, I mean, I don't even think it's an opinion at this point, but if you get to try them out in your place, just listen and go like, oh, okay, and I'm hearing the differences now. But it's how you make decisions in the mix. That's what I'm talking about, basically. Based on the conversion that you're actually hearing to your speakers and going in and making decisions on mic pre's going in and things like that. And I love this stuff. It's super, like, almost boring in a way. And I know that the video is almost going to be watched by absolutely nobody. But essentially, this was so interesting. I couldn't see many videos about the two. So anyway, they also have a Starnet 16. I can't remember if I said, but that's fanless, I believe. So 16 in and out, and there's no fan. So you can obviously have that way closer to you if you didn't want it to have it be in your control room or away from monitoring or whatever. Because I'd say it's too loud to have in front of you, in my opinion. And also the fans on the side. So if you had it racked, I'd probably want a vent there, like metal rack. So you'd still be hearing it because you wouldn't have wood to like close it in. Anyway, point being, at plus 18 dBu, it's, you know, a little bit masked. Plus 24, a little bit better. Still got a great like top end. Like it's smoother, but it's not like. Basically, all this comes down to is to me the D to A. That's the biggest thing that I noticed the difference on these two units. And what I'm saying is that, like, I'm almost splitting hairs a little bit with the A to D, but at this level I think it's important too, because if you're trying the two, neither of these are bad. Neither of them are gonna cause an issue to your song being a good song or not. Equally with the Apollo, you can obviously write a good song on any interface, and that shouldn't impact on the quality of the song. But in terms of mixing and recording and like listening back, the D to A on the Lynx Aurora, to me, sue me, but it sounds wrong. And you might have already turned off thinking, what's he talking about? It's the best thing ever. I love it. And like Essex Pro let me borrow this, and Neve let me borrow this, and neither have paid me to do anything or say anything, and they've all been pretty sound and said, like, just say whatever you want. You know, I'm sure that, you know, anybody watching this or cares and has typed this in will have their own opinions anyway, which is awesome. But I think it sounds a bit glassy, a bit harder, and I don't know what, and I was finding a problem in mixes that I was like immediately EQing stuff, and obviously that's paired with a fairly detailed or really detailed system in the Kii BXTs, and then flattening the room, which I think sounds better through the Trinnov. So I feel like I'm not getting any extra reflection from the room particularly, so not extra brightness that shouldn't be there, but I mostly found it out on reference material where I'm listening and things aren't in the places where I thought they were going to be. So, excuse me, so things like cymbals and S's and like a shh sound of distortion, not actual distortion, but guitar distortion or things where a tube has distorted, saturation or whatever, feel like they're more like, I don't know, it's not softening like an analog desk does a lot. So like, it felt like it just wasn't softening. But I was thinking, oh, well, maybe that's what's there, and I just need to relearn my Kii speakers. I've finally been revealed, and that's, I'm sure, what the retailers would say and say this and stuff. But I feel like the intention of the mixing engineers, the girls and guys who have mixed a band with an impression in their mind of what they want to hear, and I'm looking at like the TC Electronics to the Clarity, like a graph thing, and I'm saying like there's so much low end that I'm not hearing from this, but I am hearing from the Starnet, the AMS Neve. And like a tightness to this, like there's a sustain on the low end as well, which I feel like is just unbelievably, it's just controlled. Whereas on the Lynx, it feels like it's like tight and like it kind of stops or doesn't stop. I'm not quite sure where the sub stops or finishes. You know, like the sustains feels like it's a little bit, it's just a bit like monoed somewhat. So the differences I'm really hearing are quite hardness and like a glassy sheen or something on top of a mix or a reference mix, where I don't think those are actually where they should be in the mix. And I know, like, I keep thinking in my head that people are going to be like, that's rubbish, you're talking rubbish. Loads of people use this. It's class. It is really good. But I'm listening to some songs that I know really well, not even my mixes, like reference material, top end engineers, like really good stuff, and obviously poor stuff as well to get the reference point. And I don't think the placement of things in the mix are exactly where I think they have been intended to be, if that makes sense. And on the AMS Neve, they feel like they are, if that makes any sense. the digital to analog output of this at plus 18 dBu, there's a lot more. It feels like it's wider. It's got like a wider thing going on. And I don't know if that. I thought initially it was psychological because this is a 32-bit floating point, and this is 24-bit fixed. And I've noticed some things in Logic, at least when you bounce things at 24-bit, sometimes it sounds slightly different to a 32-bit float. But it depends. If you're not monitoring on something that's got like that kind of resolution, maybe you're not hearing it. But I don't know. But my opinion anyway. Obviously, and I do encourage you to try them out. Obviously, that's the most important thing in your room with your speakers and your setup. Because the Lynx Aurora N, maybe with a pair of ATCs, is absolutely perfect. You might think that would be like the smoothest top end you've ever heard, and it might add more detail and clarity. That it says it's not adding anything, but I honestly feel like some of the stuff that's there, like the S's and T's, was so. Some of it was unlistenable, honestly, through the keys, even with the Trinnov on. And if they turn the Trinnov off, forget it. It was ridiculous. But with the AMS Neve at plus 18 dBu, it was at least chunky, kind of like low end. And I was looking at the graph and thinking, oh, that's loads of low end. And I looked at the TC electronic, and there was a load of sober to low end. But it's quite sustained and focused. What I remember from the barefoot monitors, like listening to the M127s and M126s, the sub was always contained, and sustained was like finish at a certain point. I did a video about that, but I just think it's amazing. And that's what that felt like. And I hate to say the word musical because it doesn't really mean anything, maybe, but it felt like the intention of the mixing engineer was more obvious. It was more like, oh, that makes sense, they would put that there. And not that it sounded better, even though I think I preferred the sound of this, but I felt like some things were in the wrong place with the Lynx Aurora. That's what I'm saying. Like mainly the top end, and sort of a lack of things below 150 hertz. They were still presented, they were still there, but it felt like it wasn't part of the mix. They were all like separate. It was all very separate and like very almost scientific in a way. I don't know what it was, but the Neve on the way out, at least, felt to the speakers, so the D to A felt so like together, and like a filtered piano, for example, like a Z track, a super fancy fast like transient thing. It was like filtered. I'm thinking, it almost felt like it was pitched up on the Lynx. It was like clearer, but like moved up a bit on if that makes any sense, in the frequency. And whereas I was like looking back at like the EQ, like what was actually happening, and it was more akin to what the AMS was spitting out to me. That was like more what was happening. But the top end is definitely smoother on the Starnet, and not dark by any stretch, but it's a lot. I don't know. It just sounds a lot more like together. Everything's wide and together, and the Lynx felt very mono. Not always, but in comparison to the two, to the Starnet, it felt a bit more mono. And then also there's a point, like when I was listening to stuff, I just tried messing with some like up and down Headroom stuff on the Starnet, at least. Plus 18 dBu felt like the most kind of together and kind of like thing that I would mix and expect a song to sound like finished, master, done, everything in its place. Whereas this was like, I was constantly having to like fix things. Do you know what I mean? It was almost like you'd solo everything. So you're getting all that information, which immediately I think that's a great thing. And that's why I love the keys, because you didn't have to solo as much. You kind of just listen as a whole and do that. But then just the top end was kind of like, it just felt like it was too separate. The things weren't blending together like an actual mix was. It feels like the AMS Starnet is doing like almost what summing does, if that makes any sense, in bringing things together as intended. The layering is still really good. Really, if anything, that's like a deeper conversion to the speakers, in my opinion. And then the Lynx is more like surgical, like parametric in a way that's like if you were to solo a vocal, you go, oh, that's great or whatever. But then in context, I'm constantly fixing things, and I'm just really struggling to mix something together. And that's probably is just me, but I couldn't make it work for my setup. So the AMS, the Starnet at least, I do feel like the A to D is clearer on the way in from the Lynx, but at plus 24 dBu, not 26, at 24, it felt like some sort of middle ground. And the reason I'm saying that, it felt like that was unmasked more on the way in. So I'm happy with that. Like it was kind of, neither of these they're amazing, really, really good. But the D to A, on this, just feels like, I don't know, they're not worlds apart, they just sound different, right? So you've got to have an opinion and make your own mind up. But this feels more mono, it definitely feels but less together. It felt like things were like, it just like a narrower mix, but things were separate. They were just separated, and I don't know what that is. Like in the box mix, if that means anything to you, an in the box mix versus an analog desk mix or a summed mix in some way with lots of colour and lots of like gluing things together. The Starnet felt like it had this crazy thing where it would just, things were just wide. If they were wide, they were wide. Not like, if something's mono, it didn't feel like it just spread it. It wasn't like a width plugin or something like that. It wasn't doing that. It felt like it was there. But then I started experimenting with so it's on plus 24 dBu now. So the low end is still sustained like at 18 dBu, but 24 dBu, it felt like it just tamed out a little bit. It was still really prominent, like way more prominent than the Lynx. But the top end felt like it was kind of a little bit more transient, and just a hair bit more going towards more like this, so less smooth and a bit more a hair more sort of 8K upwards or whatever, right? And that felt like the best balance, because I went to 26 dBu with the most headroom or the most dynamic range. I could be talking nonsense, but that setting anyway, a third option of listening, and 26 dBu to me sounded really close to the Lynx, and I was thinking, oh well, maybe we've cracked it. You know, they're similar. That's what they're meant to do. They're meant to sound like that, right? But even at 26 dBu, I wasn't getting that glassy hardness of the Lynx Aurora, and I don't believe for a second that the mixing engineers and the producers and the mastering people have suggested that in the audio file. That's what I'm saying. It's that reference only. That's what I'm talking about. Whereas with this one, the 26 dBu setting was the closest, and that low end popped down a little bit, so it was a little bit more sort of more flattened out. But then you look at the graphs, and I said look at graphs. Looking at the TC thing, which I look at a lot, the clarity metering, and if there is sub and there's low end and stuff, that felt like it faded away a little bit at 26 dBu. And I feel like if I was in a mix world, I've been adding too much like sub. In fact, it was already there. Do you know what I'm saying? So so the top end, whilst it's smoother, in my opinion, it's more balanced and stuff than the Lynx. I feel like the way in on the Lynx was just like at 20 dBu, it just sounds class. I was trying to get close to it with this. And I don't even know if they're the same card. Someone might be like, it's exactly the same conversion on the way in as it is on the way out. But listening to this, I think at plus 24 dBu, it gave me that perfect balance between smooth top end, but still a little bit more transient than you get at 18 dBu. But the low end was still there. It's all layered. It's like really three-dimensional. And I don't remember I don't know if it sounds like the Genesis sounded, the conversion built into Genesis. Speaking to Neve, I don't believe it's exactly the same. It's similar or whatever. But if you care about price point, which I don't at this point, it's about listening to stuff and what gives me the best results. And right now, this AMS Starnet, maybe not with a fan. I don't know, I'll get a fanless one. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it's running really cool, so there's that. But only because my room's small. But you get two 16s, and then you get 32, so maybe I'll do that, I don't know. But basically, obviously it doesn't have headphones, so you're missing out on that. This has got Thunderbolt in and out. It's got, this option at least has got AES in and out as well. So you've got bypass of the D to A stages there. Just straight digital AES out. You've also got ADAT on this one. So there's more going on in this modular setup. But you can have it, it's carded, so you can modulate. You can have it like 16 ins and outs or 8 ins and outs. You also have mic pre's on this one. And this one is just conversion, A to D, D to A, over the Dante network. It's got clocking as well if you want to let a link to other things as well. But essentially it's a Dante device. So this is priced a lot cheaper. This is about £3,300 ink VAT. Something like that. I don't know exactly. And then the 16 I think is like 3,000. I'm not sure. I'm not too sure. The Lynx is obviously modular, but this is 24 in, 24 out, and it's got the AES card as well, so it's like fully spec'd out. You could go 32 in, 32 out analog, but this is 24 in, 24 out analog, and then AES in and out, but it's also got ADAT in and out as well. And then Thunderbolt connectivity, so you don't need any Dante. It's super fast, super like latency free and all that kind of, well, latency free, but you know, super quick. And that itself is like, a massive and the two headphone things, and obviously you've got loads of metering and stuff. You can say what's going to the headphones, and it's more, there's more involved with this, a lot more involved. Obviously that's a lot more, but it is doing a lot more in terms of options and things that you can do with it. I'm just talking about sound, and that being the most important thing, however many channels or whatever, and literally 2 channels out of this sounds like I would pull a mix together quicker, like I would have on the desk. But still, the A to D on the Lynx for me is the most honest thing that I've heard so far of any converter, at least that I've tried personally. And it's just a world apart from like some of the Apollo stuff. And not negative to Apollos, I keep saying, but it's just a massive difference, you know. Being able to be like, oh, actually that, you know, that 500 series sounds great on snare top, snare bottom might work on this. You can hear the convert that, like, you just get choices just made clearer for you, which is just basically what I want, you know. And it hopefully makes your job easier as well. So I think mixing on the Starnet currently just makes more sense. Like listening to the reference material, everything sits in the same spot. Like I said, Neve haven't paid me to do any of this, and I've only been using this for a couple of days. I've had the Lynx for like a week. And I've been trying my hardest to get on with that top end difference. Anyway, please do go and get yourself a pair of each. Try them out in your own room, because obviously that's more important than any opinion that I've got or any opinion you'll see online. I'm not a retailer. I don't work for anybody, and I've been lucky enough to try out some of this stuff and hopefully give you an honest opinion on what I think things sound like. Yeah. I love converters. If you think any are better than these, please do let me know. I would love to hear them. And come to my house and let's have a coffee. Let's hang out. Anyway, all the best. Look after each other. Thanks a lot. Bye.